It's me, your friendly neighborhood kiosk. Got another little talk to do, but I'll give you something more interesting to look at. I think what we're seeing right now is the grassroots versus the machine. And a little bit of what I would consider to be interferometry, using other indicators to see if you can sense another kind of pattern or something else. And interference in the way it interacts with itself. Those puffballs. I think what we're seeing right now, the machine attempted to do everything it could to hinder or stymie the grassroots movement. The grassroots movement is effectively kind of populism, a bit of will of the people kind of thing. Not really a revolution, just concerned people for real people who are concerned. When I say real people, I mean that there are illusory people online, sock accounts, comment mobs, bots and such, not often easy to tell. It's what they call manufacturing consensus. They want you to think that other people think the same and try and encourage you into a group think where there's no actual group. You can see my harvesting of the oak over there. The grassroots is asserting itself, and I think what we're seeing right now is kind of a little bit of a mixed metaphor, but we got the grassroots setting in, and what is setting in that is managing to just barely succeed over the machine in the necessary ways and places. We have yet to see on some things, but nothing is settled on a few of them. It's not hope, and it's not cope. It's just the reality. Nothing is settled yet unless it is utterly false. If it is utterly fixed. If the entirety of this process of choosing our leadership is a farce, a complete theater. If that is the case, then it's already decided. If that is not the case, which I don't think it is the case at this time, we are seeing the grassroots fighting against the machine. But what we're seeing just barely managed to succeed of the grassroots that has just taken hold is like 1 or 2. And so the mixed metaphor is we get into that parable of the mustard seed. I've got a plant that grew in my garden last year that I thought was going to be some kind of radish that turned out to be wild mustard, because radish and turnip and all of those are related to mustard. They are in the same way that nightshades are where tobacco and tomato and peppers come from. Likewise with mustard. Interesting how that works. Horseradish is a radish. Horseradish mustard. Think about it. So, this one mustard plant, I even moved it, transplanted it. Didn't do anything extra, but it survived. It gained new height, new strength, and took off. And when it went to seed, it was like 14 feet of stem, straight out, standing mostly up. That was the big bushy thing sticking out over the top of the little garden kiosk, The only thing that really grew other than some tomatoes. So, what we're seeing in Arizona, potentially in Georgia, and what we've already seen marginally in things like House races and most of the governorships that were expected, that the grassroots actually did take hold. Now the thing is, switch hands. Oh, I was getting tired holding up the phone. It is quite possible that things will just barely turn out in a way that is what people were hoping for. Having gotten out, maybe the vote did get out. All I saw on news and punditry was them talking about whose fault it was that the Republicans didn't just crush, and it's like, hardly, as an objective observer, hardly anything was changed since the last one. There are glaring flaws, problems, exploitable issues that are somehow still allowed and or considered to be legal. And as such, they get used. And even though that, despite that, enough people rolled out and did not vote blue no matter who, that in most places, the necessary things that needed to happen happened. It's not the fault of the GOP not spending enough money. Maybe they didn't. But also, they're the conservative GOP. Like, if they're following their principles to some degree, they should be fiscally conservative. So it's a really interesting situation, but what I'm seeing is that people don't need to be told whose fault it is. People don't need to be told that it is somehow their fault, that they didn't vote hard enough. Didn't I say? I've been saying, I had to delete a couple of videos, but I know there's ones that stayed where I said, I'm sure just voting harder is going to help, sarcastically. Enough people came out and did that it may have been enough to overwhelm the machine with grassroots, and it's just taking hold. If the grassroots did in fact take hold and has any footing, say in Georgia, there's a runoff race that may actually get turned out into a good situation if the marketing is right. If the imaging of what's really at stake is there. And what it comes to is, if Herschel Walker is a senator from Georgia instead of Raphael Warnock, what this means is the Senate will have one vote majority to where the Vice President, Kamala Harris, is no longer the tiebreaker, and what the already established to be in control Republican House of Representatives can impeach. And the Senate would pass. But if the Senate stays in Democrat hands, there is no impeachment. This is the big silent panic that nobody's, stating outright just yet. But nothing is 100% decided on that, because December 6th apparently is when the runoff election in Georgia is, and that won't be decided until then, which means there is until December 6th to push, for lack of a better term, propaganda or ideas, facts, however you want to look at it, opinions about that matter, to convince people to, when they get to revote, you don't have to vote like you voted before. If you were like, oh crap, that's what that is? Oh, well, I better vote the other one. You have that chance if you're in Georgia, and that's coming up. Unfortunately, the last time that there was a runoff in Georgia, the guy that's in won, and that was at the center where they had a lot of questions about some things caught on video that never really came to fruition, except in a court case that was actually drawn out and won by the plaintiff, who then the court dismissed the case and required that he return all copies of the results. But what they found was an extreme amount of double and triple, etc., counting of certain down ballot themed ballots. The presidential parts were nonsense or memes. Kanye West and The Rock, not Trump or Biden. And everything down ballot was a specific set of candidates that are specifically funded by a specific oligarch whose name I won't say. Jew who helped hunt other Jews. That's not anti-Semitism to say. So that's the grassroots versus the machine. We've got this thing happening. It continues. Nothing's over. Nothing's fucked. The fight continues, and what this means is continuing education of yourself and anyone around you that's ever seems curious, or you get into the slightest conversation about something. You don't overload them with facts or try and convince them of anything. You simply provide some food for thought. So much wood I could be harvesting down here. On the road, game trail. So, what I would like to see happen in the future, although I am not hopeful by any means, what I would like to see moving forward is a system set up to audit every single election automatically. As soon as results are in, as soon as the thing is counted and whatever, it doesn't even matter if the results are released. Immediately begin an open and transparent audit. Make sure that there's nothing funky. Immediately filter for BS. And then you can get the correct results. It should be part of the process anyway. Why isn't it already part of the process? If somebody's not doing something like that that's open and self-governing and self-policing, honestly, it means that they're in on the shenanigans. This is what the grassroots needs to address. People do get that it seems like this system is funky, and we've seen just enough proof that the system is funky, but not quite 100% yet. But it won't be that way for long. It will be worse. Some places it's okay. States take it seriously. In my state, they take it very seriously. Everywhere you go, you have to scan your driver's license. And if you don't have a driver's license, there's still going to be a barcode on a non-driver identification, which you can get in the same location. It's not difficult and costs you like $3 freaking. Maybe 10. I don't know what inflation's doing. There's no excuse. You got to be trying to avoid detection, trying to do something shady if you're trying to get by without that anyway. Very few instances. Very, very few. Knowing how it works is the second part we need to talk about. The United States Constitution lays out the federal government, the three branches, the process by which the state governments will decide and execute the elections. So states have a choice of doing things differently. The fact that we have elections to elect senators is a relatively new thing. It used to be chosen by the House of Representatives. It was literally a House of Lords type situation, and it became more of a representative democratic republic when the Senate was added in a different way. And so typically people that make it into the Senate are most usually a little more educated, a little higher knowledge. They're, often lawyers, doctors, judges, scientists, very infrequently. We got one running for a football player. It's not really, but he's one in that area that can run, that has the name recognition, that can win. So that's who they ran. I don't think he's stupid. He's just not articulate. He knows what needs to be done, like for real. That I do know. I've seen a bit of him, and I don't mean like commercials and propaganda. I mean like appearances and stuff that he's made over the years. He knows what actually needs to be done, and he's got enough money already that I don't think that somebody's saying, "Hey, we'll just took you." It was like, "Nah, bro, this is why I'm here." I think that's what would happen. So it's kind of necessary. I'm hoping for that. It looks like at the tail end here, by the way, also Lauren Boebert may actually make it in, which is important. You need people like that. You need Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert both in the House of Representatives at the same time to help prosecute an impeachment like we've got, as well as people like Ted Cruz in the Senate. And someone like Herschel Walker, who can attest to some of the things he witnessed in the Georgia elections in 2020, which the media and everything else has tried to censor. It's very, very important that people know what actually happened. And I'm not trying to cry or complain or try and change anything or whatever else. It's that we are all in very serious danger when it comes to how our government is run. You want to talk about climate change, you want to talk about saving the world or anything else or inequality and whatever. The system and the people that run how the system is conducted are a threat to us all. That's all I can say without anything getting censored. They are a threat to us all, and more people need to understand that. It's not about sides, politics, or anything else. That's all shit we're supposed to fight about. Not only are there trees here, but I'm in the forest, you see. You got to see everything. So many thorns. Now we are on the main highway. Even here, there's some thorns. Oh, there it is. There it is. I am not armed. I have found a scratch, I believe. Make sure nobody's around. I would expect that me standing, walking, crunching, and talking would probably scare things off by now. But all I got is some loosely tied steel toes and a large ceramic coffee mug to defend myself. And my voice. Oh my. Okay. Well. Oh, and up there too. I shall forego harvesting any of this wood. Something's stuck in the side of the one. Just where the little center screen, little green sprig goes across, the leaves beyond that have been tousled. That's probably the poop spot in the scratch. It's a triangle, so that makes sense. Time to leave. That's the path I was looking for earlier and couldn't find the old way. Capital letters, old way. There it is. stuff on it to get. Oh, yeah. They're also going to try and ruin Christmas for a lot of people. They're just going to try and make it the dog shitness season that they can possibly make it. And my suggestion is be of good cheer. Go extra. And I'm not saying spend extra. I'm saying go extra on Christmas spirit. Want you to despair. Okay, guts are over there this time. That was no joke. That little triangle of woodfall is a bobcat litter box. Oh boy. So I talked a big game about I was going to do the magic circle and burn the trash. There was an eclipse on this moon. Cast no magic. That was a nice walk. Hope you enjoyed my walk and talk.